The court has approached my case completely different than it has other cases. I would sit in the courtroom on purpose and I would listen for several cases to be called before my case got called. And I would listen to these same judges that ruled in my case, ruling in other cases with basically the same facts. I watched Judge Maria Nega literally have men put in jail for not paying child support, put in jail for not paying spousal support. And I would wait and I would watch and I would listen very carefully to see, to make sure it's not just me feeling that something is different, but for me to know. And I would do this day after day. I would do this time after time. And then I would listen very carefully and intently. My case being called and issues of child support and spousal support, and Judge Nega saying, well, we're going to hear that. We're going to push that off to the trial. Or we'll hear that, 3 months from now. We'll do that at some later date, or something in 6 months from now. Then we'll address, a support issue for the children, for Zion and Zaire. Then we'll address a support issue for, Savon Wade. But for other cases, for other men, regular men who work regular jobs, 9 to 5, construction workers or mailmen or firefighters, it was like they obey the law, or that's it. It's we're gonna tell them once and that's all. But for Mr. Wade, for the celebrity, it was like, we'll give him 3 months, we'll give him, this much time to even respond to what's happening. We'll push that case down to a later date. Yes, the system did fail me. The system failed me when it failed my 2 children, Zion and Zaire. Zaire once, he had to make a phone call to his dad. And I dialed the number for him to speak to his dad. And I walked away in the kitchen. All of a sudden, I remember hearing all the way from the kitchen, Mr. Wade screaming and cursing and yelling. He was, stop effing crying. Man the F up. Men don't effing cry. What did the F I tell you about effing crying? Stop crying like a effing girl. And Zaire just all of a sudden screamed, and he was like, I just want to die. I just want to die. And he dropped the phone, ran upstairs to his room, and slammed the door. Right after that, he literally lost hair in the front of his head. His hair literally fell out from stress and feeling a desire to die because of the abusive way that Mr. Wade would speak to him and curse at him. Zaire bravely cried out to the child representative, Lester Barkley, in the case. He bravely cried out to therapists and to doctors and told them what was happening to him. And the Cook County court system, Judge Nega, Judge Goldfarb, none of them, Judge Fernandez, none of them would hear his cry. Zion was only 2 years old. He comes back from a visitation with Mr. Wade, and his eye is completely blackened. His face literally bruised. Nobody explained what happened to Zion. Nobody could say, Miss Wade, this is what happened to your son, your baby, this happened or that happened. Nobody said anything. A 2-year-old, eye completely black, like he'd been socked in the face bruised, and literally even purple, his skin turned under his eye, and nobody said anything. I opened my mouth. I told the court. I cried out to judges. This is what is happening. None of them did anything. December, both of the children go to Mr. Wade's house again on a visitation. And it's Christmas time. Both of the children come back. Zaire's nose, I could see in my older son's nose, the blood still with the ring around his nose from where he had fallen. He said he literally hit a brick pavement and rolled into the pool, into Mr. Wade's pool in his yard, and almost drowned to death, fully clothed outside in the backyard at nighttime, unsupervised by any adult. He said the very next day, Zion fell into that same unfenced pool at Mr. Wade's house and almost drowned to death. Both of my children, both of them, could have died all in the same weekend, one solid visitation with Mr. Wade. Cook County court system continued to fail us, both my children and myself. You know, there were doctors, there was a therapist involved, a licensed therapist that reported the abuse that was happening to Zion and Zaire by Mr. Wade. She spoke up and she spoke out, and she called and made whatever, you know, decisions that had to be made concerning the abuse, and to report it to even DCFS. She reported to the Department of Children and Family Services, and the court did absolutely nothing. Mr. Wade petitioned the court right after she reported him for abuse, and he asked the court, have her fired, to have her literally fired from her job. And the judges, they said motion granted, and they had her fired. Now, then came a doctor who's even more qualified, a medical doctor, and also a psychiatrist. He gets involved and he starts treating Zaire. And lo and behold, he says, Mr. Wade is abusing those children. This is abuse. This is domestic violence. What's happening to these children? It doesn't matter who he is or how much he earns. He's wrong. And if he's not stopped, it will be damning for these children. And he reported Mr. Wade to everybody that it needed to be reported to, and spoke out. And I bravely spoke out. In court, I spoke up for my children, and I told the judges just what Mr. Wade was doing, just what the doctor had informed me of, what the therapist, what the psychiatrist had reported to me. Shortly after, Mr. Wade asked the court, fire him. Have him fired from his job. And the judge entered a motion. She granted this motion, and entered an order and said, yes, that psychiatrist will be fired as well. Next comes a medical doctor, a forensic psychiatrist, court appointed, Dr. Phyllis Amabile. She's the court's own witness, not my witness, not Mr. Wade's witness, not anybody on behalf of the children. Neutral and there for the purpose of the court, to inform them what has really happened in this family and where these children need to be placed for their own best interest. Is it really with Mr. Wade, or is it really with their mom, Miss Wade? This woman is a board certified medical doctor, a forensic psychiatrist, the court's own witness. She did not one but two evaluations in this family. And she came back not once but twice. And she said, Mr. Wade should not have full custody. She said, yes, Zaire is telling the truth. Mr. Fist is real. Dwyane Wade is taking a closed fist and punching his son in the chest. That is his way of disciplining him. She said that. She admitted that. She told that that's what was really happening behind closed doors to this family. And the system failed me by even taking its own witness, discrediting its own witness, and saying, even though its own witness has reported this abuse, they're still not going to do anything besides rule in Mr. Wade's favor, besides go where the celebrity is leading them to go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Money and fame had everything to do with the outcome of this case. It had everything to do with the verdict in the Wade case, time and time again. You know, Mr. Wade had went over a year and a month straight. Not a dime did he give me to take care of his children. If he didn't want to give me anything and let me starve to death, but his own children, his own flesh and blood, he literally went a year and a month straight consecutively. He didn't give me money for school tuition. He didn't say, well, I'm going to send, and make sure you have money at least for bread and milk for the children. He didn't send it and say, let me make sure that Zion has, diapers, and that he has what he needs. Let me make sure that, their tuition is paid at school, that they have the uniform they need for school, or books, or whatever school supplies that they may need. He did absolutely nothing. Nothing. He didn't send even a dime for his own children. He had no idea the situation that I was in, and how hard it was to raise and take care of two children off of savings. Complete savings, nothing else. All we had to literally live off of and survive off of was that. Then he went another year straight, consecutive 12 months, absolutely not a dime for Mr. Wade. And he came to this house saying he wants to see his children now all of a sudden in a Porsche. Coming to the house in a Maybach, Cars that cost $350,000, $400,000. And didn't even say, I brought a school uniform with me. You know, I at least wanted to, let me at least pay for the books that the children may need. Let me at least pay for school supplies. And the Cook County court system did absolutely nothing. Judge Fernandez, seeing it in front of her, having the documents, looking at Mr. Wade's bank statements, seeing millions of dollars, seeing that he owns 17 cars, and seeing that me and my children, 3 people, 3 mouths were being fed off of savings. She did absolutely nothing. Yes, I did. I filed an appeal. I had no choice but to file an appeal. You know, Judge Fernandez had went on her own, like a court's own motion, and she vacated the only order that was finally put in place to give me some kind of money for myself and my children. She did it herself. So just all of a sudden, you know, Judge Fernandez goes and she vacates the order herself and totally abolishes and destroys the only means I had for income. It wasn't just me. It was me, Zion, and Zaire living together. You know, I had to support not just myself, but even my 2 children. And she just vacated it. So we filed an appeal, and the appellate court reversed her decision. The appellate court literally said that they found Judge Faye Fernandez had abused her discretion when she did that to me. And they sent an order down to that lower court to Judge Fernandez to fix it, for her to literally restore me to the status quo financially. And then, I mean, she still didn't do it. It still didn't change anything. She literally waited and she said, well, it's going to be more time. I believe the appellate court's decision came down in March of 2012. And she said, well, she needs more time. That time came, those couple months went by, don't have enough money to even pay my bills. And then she did this. She recused herself and quit. And she quit without fixing it. She didn't say, give Miss Wade her money back, fix it, you know, let me fix this first and then recuse myself. But she left me not knowing what was going to happen to myself. Can't even afford to go fly and see my children right now. And she just quit. She didn't fix what they ordered her to do. No, it hasn't gotten better since Judge Fernandez recused herself. The new judge, Judge Carr, he's underneath the same appellate court order, you know, to restore me to the status quo, to fix what was done wrongfully to me financially, to pay me back the funds I need, even to live off of. And he hasn't done it either. He literally set a date to deal with financial issues, July 15th, 2013, a year. He's went and he said, we'll hear about that and Miss Wade's needs, her financial needs, a year from now. You know, and as far as the order of the appellate court, I'm not certain what he's thinking or why Judge Carr is doing this. I don't understand it. They've been court ordered to do something. They've been mandated by a higher court to do the right thing, to undo and to fix what they did wrong to me. And they still are saying, nevertheless, we're not hearing it right now. And everybody who knows anything about justice knows this. Justice delayed is justice denied. Period. They're denying me justice. Each and every time they say, we'll hear Mr. Wade on an emergency basis. Mr. Wade comes in, you know, it's an emergency. He needs to be heard here. He needs to be heard now. Yes, we're going to hear Mr. Wade's motion. Miss Wade comes in. I've been preparing for a hearing, spent I don't know how much money, expert witnesses literally flown in from another state to show them what my financial needs are, what my children's financial needs are, and to say, help us. Do not let it get to the point where we're literally starving to death. And this new judge, Judge Carr, same thing. He's not hearing it now. Some later date. Financial trial, Miss Wade, 2013 for you. Mr. Wade, it's an emergency. They're on top of it like, you know, if it's their own motion themselves that they're doing. And that certainly is a double standard. It's clearly a double standard. You know, for me, for myself, they said that I was 4 hours late or some hours late for a pickup for the children. That's what they accused me of. There was no court order at all. Mr. Wade had the Cook County sheriffs come to my house. Timothy Balderman, ex-chief of police for Oak Lawn, and another jurisdiction, Dalton Police, come to my home and say, have her arrested. They took a late pickup or drop-off and called it child abduction, visitation abuse, unlawful visitation abuse, kidnapping, when there was not even a court order that Mr. Wade could produce to the police. They did that for Mr. Wade. They did that for the celebrity. They did that for money and for fame. But when I've went countless times and I've said, my children and I don't even have money for our basic bills. The car broke down and we had to walk. No police came to our rescue. The judges were saying, that's not an emergency. We'll hear that. Let's give Mr. Wade a chance to respond. Let's give him 30 days to respond to that motion. As if Mr. Wade didn't know that he wasn't feeding his own children. As if Mr. Wade forgot somehow that he had not sent any money for his own wife and children for 2 years. As if he forgot something like that. Then this same court hold me in contempt. My lawyer, literally, in a car accident before a hearing. She could have been killed on the Stevenson Expressway. Her car was literally total. I saw her car in a ball, literally the metal folded up in her car. It is a miracle, nothing but a miracle from God that that woman was still alive. That court nevertheless said this: half dead lawyer, injured lawyer, lawyer in a car accident, who cares? Mr. Wade finally showed up for court and they're going to move forward with the hearing. And since Ms. Wade isn't there, even though her lawyer could have died, had to go seek medical attention, that was an emergency that no one foresaw, they still said this: we're going to hold Ms. Wade in contempt of court though. And we're going to make her pay an outrageous amount of bail money that we know she doesn't have, because we're the same court who's refused to give her access to her own money, and we're the same court that's denied her rights and any petition that was filed on behalf of Zion and Zaire to have any money from their own dad. Now, Mr. Wade, being compelled to come to court, I literally have lost count. I can't even tell you the number of times that Dwyane Wade, the celebrity, has been required to come into court. And the same judge, the same Cook County that said, put Miss Wade in jail for not showing up. Even though we have proof that she was here on time, her lawyer is vouching for her that she was there. She has witnesses, a police officer that gave an affidavit stating, swearing under oath, yes, Miss Wade did show up for court, but her attorney was in an accident, almost killed, and she was told court was canceled. That same court, those same judges that put me in jail, have not said one thing to Mr. Wade. They have allowed him, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 10 times, I've lost count, for Mr. Wade to be ordered to come into court, and they have said absolutely nothing to the celebrity, to the superstar. That is a double standard, if nothing else is. No, it hasn't been fixed. The court still hasn't done anything about it, you know. Judge Faye Fernandez was ordered by the appellate court to fix this all the way back in March 2012 to restore me to the status quo and to fix what was done wrong to me financially, what she'd done wrong to me financially. And you know, it's been well over 7 months. There are women that conceive and give birth sooner than this being fixed. And instead she recused herself, violated the court order, and she's kept right on moving. The new judge, Judge Carr, still hasn't fixed it, violating the court order. And it's like, who cares? Nothing's happening. But this same court, you know, June 16th, this past summer, they sent out here Cook County sheriffs, actually it wasn't Oak Lawn, excuse me, he's from Chicago Ridge. The former chief of police, Timothy Balderman, they're outside of my house while I'm here enjoying time and spending time with my children and my family, you know, and they allegedly said that I violated a court order that didn't even exist. You know, the court order, it wasn't even real. There was no such court order. Yet nevertheless, they still arrested me, put me in jail, you know, and let me just sit there, abruptly snatched the children from me, took them out of here. I didn't even know where they were going. They had no idea where I was going, other than to see that police are hauling me away literally swarming me, a bunch of police officers, male police officers at that, and this same court in violation of the appellate court's order. And nothing has happened. No one's done anything. So, it's not just me. No, it's definitely not just me saying to the court, this needs to be done, and this is what the law says, and to follow the law. The appellate court is a higher court. It's like the court that's above where Judge Nega and Judge Fernandez and Judge Goldfarb and Judge Berger are sitting. It's like their boss, so to speak. This court is over Judge Delgado. It's over all of them. So it's like their boss commanding them or mandating them to do something, and still they're saying they're not going to do it. If justice is to be given to Miss Wade, even if the appellate court, even if a higher court, even if their own boss is telling them, you must do right by this woman, they are still saying they're not giving me any justice. They're not going to give justice to Zion and Zaire. So it's clearly a double standard. And it's a double standard to the point of not, the judges have been unethical, but this is unlawful. The double standard has went to the point of being unlawful. Judges are supposed to uphold the law. Judges are supposed to be faithful and maintain and uphold the law and enforce the law. But the judges that I have witnessed, Judge Fernandez and currently Judge Carr, not only are they not upholding the law, they are breaking it themselves. And those same judges, to look me and any other party, any other participant to a court case in the face and tell them, you need to obey the law, it's almost funny. It's almost funny. No, it's not my opinion. It is literally the law. I can quote you the law. When I say judges are supposed to be faithful to the law, that's my opinion or what I believe should be happening. It is literally the law itself. I can quote it for you. This is an Illinois statute. It's Canon 3 for judicial conduct and how judges should behave and conduct themselves. And this is a statute. This is above common law. It says a judge should be faithful to the law and maintain professional competence in it. It also says, a judge shall accord to every person who has a legal interest in a proceeding or that person's lawyer the right to be heard according to the law. So this is not my opinion, about what the judges should be doing and how they should be unbiased and how they should be impartial. The law requires that of them. I'm only asking that they do what they are supposed to do. None of us are above the law, not even judges. So my cry is that the judges don't continue to behave like they're above the law, or that there should be some sort of exception to all the rules for them when it's not for any other citizen of the United States of America. That should not be the case. I noticed the double standard. I noticed the biasness early on, very early on in the case. And I remember asking myself, why are they discriminating against me? And I would ask myself, is it because, I'm a woman maybe? Maybe that's where the discrimination is stemming from. And then I thought about it and I said, well, these judges are mostly female Hispanic judges. So I said, I don't know. And then I thought, well, maybe they're discriminating against me because of my race. Is it because I'm African American, that they're doing this? And it got to the point where I realized, this is bigger than a discrimination. This is bigger than them discriminating against me. It's literally retaliation. I began to notice that whenever I would go into court and file whatever documents or go in front of whichever judge it was, no matter if it was Judge Goldfarb, Judge Fernandez, Judge Nega, Judge Hellenberger, it didn't matter. Whenever I would go and expose the truth about what was happening, the domestic violence, the child abuse, the verbal abuse from Mr. Wade, the financial abuse, the neglect, and my children almost drowning, the judge's responses would be to retaliate against me. I noticed that. Even now, after the first interview I gave, Judge Faye Fernandez quit. And she quit knowing this, this woman has on file pleading to the court that she doesn't even have enough money to pay for school. She's not in a position to afford to go to school. The school has said if tuition is not paid, she will be dropped from her classes. And without her fixing it, she walked away. It is a retaliation. It's so much bigger than discrimination, as awful and disgusting as that is. But it's discrimination and retaliation on top of it. You know, there hasn't been a time that I've went and I've gotten the courage to speak up and to say, this is what's happening to myself, or this is what is happening to Zion and Zaire, and it hasn't been some sort of retaliation. And I'll tell you, mainly there's been two things.